Fairy Whispering explores the multi-sensory pathways to connect with the other world, such as listening to the messages in owls' hoots, singing to mermaids in a moonlit cove, or knowing just what to give a gnome when they come to dinner. I'm Claire Casey, a fairy whisperer. Take my hand and I'll guide you safely through the enchanted twilight woodland, where they are waiting to meet you. If you enjoy this episode and would like to support the show, you can sign up to my Fairy Whisperer Patreon community. See links in the notes for this show. Hello dear listener, and hello to my Fairy Whisperer patrons. Thank you all for supporting the show, and I couldn't do this without you. This is a special replay for Faequinox, a month of fairies on the Fairy Whispering podcast. It is an updated edit of an episode that I originally released on my Weird Wonderful Wonders podcast in August 2022. For this chat, we travelled to the Rocky Mountains, USA with my guest Pat. Pat and I originally met on a walk on Dartmoor in 2021, and we chatted about our fairy experiences. I'm thankful to her for agreeing to share her story of a strange encounter with what she calls a small creature whilst she was living and working in Breckenridge, Colorado as a ski instructor in 2007 to 8. If you'd like to see what the creature looked like, Pat has done a sketch of the being she saw, and I've shared this with my Patreon community. Plus, I've created a PDF download about Native American belief in the little people. My Patreon community supports this podcast, and without it I wouldn't be able to keep the podcast running. You can join us for free for 7 days to try out before you buy. If you have a fairy or other supernatural experience, I'd love to hear from you. You can contact the show, Claire at fairywhisperer.co.uk, and I spell fairy with a F-A-E-R-Y. Pat visited me at home for our chat over coffee, as we didn't have time to meet for a walk for this episode. I found her story very inspiring and uplifting. I hope you enjoy too, and I'll come back to you at the end with some concluding thoughts about her experience.
I'll describe it, how I saw it and what I saw.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we can actually think who that was, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So nice to talk to you, Claire.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting me to do this.
Okay.
In the skiing season of 2007-2008, I travelled from Cape Cod in the east coast of America, where I stayed, to Breckenridge in Colorado, which is a ski resort in the Vail Resort. And I went there because I wanted to work there. I mean, I was hired as a ski instructor. So I remember the journey to that place. Me and my then partner, we traveled on the Greyhound bus like 3 days. And so this experience as such was very interesting. But the situation I want to tell you about is happened in Breckenridge. So in the ski resort as such, in the place where we lived that time. So we were renting a basement. We were renting a basement at the family house. The family who were our landlords at that time. And the house was on a hill. So the house itself was even higher than the town, and the town is at the altitude of 3,000 meters.
Okay.
So it's very high.
Yeah. And what's the terrain like? So when you say it's out of the town, how far out of the town, and was it surrounded by woodland or just empty? So the hills were like encircling the towns. On one side there were hills, on the other side it was
Rocky Mountains. So gigantic, huge mountains that stretch out, thousands of miles from the south to the north. And so the town was like as if nested in the valley at the foot of these mountains.
Right, yeah.
So, thickly forested, very extreme winters, like -15, -20 for weeks, with very heavy snowfalls. A beautiful but very cold place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds like that sort of landscape.
Yes, like that. And of course the ski resort stretched out in a vast area, right? So there were actually 4 mountains, peak 8, peak 9, peak 10, peak 11, with lots different ski routes for beginners, for more advanced skiing, some off-piste ski routes as well. So a very beautiful and mysterious place, I'd say.
So your house then, was it completely on its own, or were there other houses next door? Or
so the house was on its own. So it was a detached house, and there were some other houses, but it stood on its own. And there were some trees and bushes, right? That was kind of encircling the house. Right. So the house wasn't too close to other houses. It has its space, so to speak. Yeah. And also, everything was just covered in snow. So it looked like the house on its own, so to speak. Although it was at the street where other houses were, but they were tucked in the trees. Right. So actually, when you were close to the house, you just saw the house, right? And it was a beautiful, a wooden house, just a beautiful architecture, very big one. And this family lived there, so there was a couple and 2 sons, and us. Yeah. It was a beautiful place overall.
Do you know how old it was? Was it one of the originals?
It looked like a house that maybe was built in the 70s, because the wooden logs it was made of were quite they looked fresh. Yeah, because I come from an area in Poland, in Zakopane, when there's lots of wooden architecture, so I would tell, but it looked relatively new. Yeah, lots of actually things in America they are not as old as here, right? Dating back to the Tudors or even Roman times sometimes. Yeah, but this house was it has an atmosphere of its own, if you know what I mean, a fireplace, smell of the wood. It was a nice house. Yeah.
Oh.
When I arrived with my partner, it turned out that the Breckenridge Ski Resort offered a room just for me, but not for my partner.
Right.
So we decided, okay, so thank you very much for that. We're going to see how it is, not being invited almost, right? So we looked for a room, and so because then I was Catholic, I come from a Catholic background, so I thought, okay, I'll go to church, and maybe the church will help us find.
Right.
Instead of going to the Catholic church, we went to the Protestant church, Episcopal church. Right. And there was Reverend Christie, a female pastor, who was shoveling the snow. And she invited us inside.
Yeah.
And she said, well, I am a reverend, come to the service, and I'll advertise that you need a room.
Oh, isn't that lovely?
This is amazing. She was great. I mean, she was great. This is when I actually stopped being Catholic. That was the final. This was So we came to that service. I mean, I came to that service, and she made an announcement that 2 girls are looking for a place to stay because they don't have a place to stay, and then this family actually offered. And I remember calling my partner and saying, listen, we have a house. We have a place to stay. Listen, I was so happy.
Yeah.
So it was almost like offered on a plate, if you know what I mean.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And so what comes to my mind as well, and we'll get to your story of the sighting in a minute, is that you were saying about this switching in your mind from your belief system was changing as well. So it sounds like a real powerful sort of crossroads for you, maybe.
Yes, very powerful crossroads. Because I sort of knew that I still believe in the higher power, right? And I believe that the higher power is watching over us, and that our lives happen for a reason, right? And that this higher power is about beauty, love, and freedom and goodness.
Yes.
So this was like this was in me, but it was kind of very shaping, if you know what I mean. Like it was taking me definitely on a spiritual path of understanding things through lots of adventures. Some of them quite difficult, but yeah. But when I look at it from the perspective of here and now, I know definitely that it was meant to happen. All of that happened.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so we got to this house.
Yes.
So we got to this house and we settled in, we moved in. It was kind of an ensuite, so a big bedroom with the access to the kitchen and in the basement and a bathroom. And the window was the level of the ground. So with the lapse of time, there was more snow. The snow was just going up and going up and going up and going up until it almost covered the whole window.
Gosh.
Yeah. And I remember that in the beginning, because of the lack of normal sort of oxygen in the air at this altitude, it was something that I think it was like 3,500 where they lived, where the house was. I had to be on oxygen.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. But then I was all right. My body adjusted and I was all right. Yeah. So we're getting close to the very...
So how long did you have to take the oxygen for before you could acclimatise?
I think I remember there was like 2 weeks. 2 weeks, yeah. And then I was all right. And and I remember that the next shock with the oxygen was when we were invited to ski with a couple of friends at the altitude of 4,000. So at the 4,000 I felt it again, but then I readjusted. So yeah.
So I mean, a lot of fairy experiences happen in these in-between places. So you were on many levels. You're in this in-between place. You're in up high. You're on the edge of civilization. Your body's adjusting and it's in a kind of a liminal state. And you've got these kind of past life memories going on and all these other transitions. Yeah.
It was in America, generally, you come across situations and places that completely evade the mind. Is it the right word?
Yeah.
Like there's so many mysterious places that it's really interesting. You know, it's because the vastness of nature, the impossibility of the landscape, like impossible distances, hugeness of things. It's everything almost feels like exaggerated. And the mountains and the changing landscape and elements are just fantastic. So this situation happened when we were there. I think we'd been there already for like 2 months.
Okay.
So we were well settled in. It was in the middle of winter. Long nights, short days, and I remember that we bought a camera. And we could film with this camera as well, so we could film things. And because the place was so beautiful, we filmed a lot. We took tons of photos, and we also wanted to show the families in Poland how we lived, right? So we filmed the flat, we filmed the house. We took photos, and sometimes we filmed goofy situations, like us playing tricks, wearing goofy clothes, us dressing for the cowboy show, things like this. So this situation happened when we were filming something just for fun, right? like you know, like having fun, like I don't know, saying stupid jokes or coming in and out of the bathroom, you know, with this huge thing on your head, you know, it's like a towel, so things like this, right? So it was like a very funny moment.
Oh gosh, it's so interesting because fairies are said to be attracted to this very light energy. That's why they're attracted to children, and they're said to be tricksters as well. So you were generating this kind of trickster light energy.
Totally.
At that time. Yeah.
And so then. So I was filming. There was a wardrobe, right? So there was a wardrobe, like as far as I remember, it was white, and behind that wardrobe was a little space, and then there was a window, and as far as I remember, it had like a double door, right? So one part of the door, I don't know how to properly name it, but one door was open, like one side of the door was open, right? And I was filming the window, the snow falling, and my partner was just having some fun and was saying something funny and was jumping, and I filmed that a little bit, and then I stopped, right? And then I wanted to replay the film for her because I wanted to show her how the snow was falling. I wanted her to hear how stupid, silly she was, you know, and stuff like this.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, watching this film, what I see is a creature popping out behind that door, looking at us with interest, and then hiding behind it right away.
This is the wardrobe door, or
the wardrobe door. The wardrobe door. So,
right.
so the creature or fairy, or I'll tell you in a second how it looked like, was definitely like behind that door, definitely. And then it popped out, looked at us with interest, like, what's happening here?
Yeah.
And then hid behind it, like after maybe 2 seconds. It was really, really short. It was really, really short, and it was interesting that I didn't see it when I was filming, but I only saw it after I replayed the film.
That is interesting, isn't it? So.
And it really happened.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, when I was watching this film with my partner again, I told her, listen, we have to record it, we have to show it to somebody in order to document it, because this really happened.
Yeah.
This is not something that we played or staged, but this really happened.
So the fairy census, I don't know whether I've sent you a link, by Simon Young, and he's he's just doing another one now, gathering modern fairy sightings, so I'm sure he'd be interested.
I definitely have it. I have like tons of files, so as I told you, I was going through them in the morning. But I'll just devote a day to this.
Yeah.
At least, and I'll go through them again, because it clearly shows how it looked.
Okay, so describe how it looks. It'd be good to have a little drawing of it, actually.
Yeah, I can make a drawing for you.
Yeah.
So first of all, it was like as if translucent.
Right.
So you could almost see through it. Yeah. It was more like a spectre, like a shape.
Yeah.
It was definitely very close to human shape. It had a head. It had a body. It had hands.
Yeah.
I don't quite remember if it had legs, because it was like he was just lurking. He was like kind of leaning like from behind, and looking with interest, covering some of his body. It didn't have a color. It was more like translucent, so you could actually see through. But there was a little structure, and it had eyes, and the eyes were interested, and they looked with interest, and it moved really fast. It was like. Like this, and when I saw it, it was almost like a kind of a shadow, right?
Right. Yeah.
But definitely, this being, this creature, was interested in what was happening. You could tell it. but in a way it didn't want to be seen. Yeah, so it was interested in us and in what was happening, but it didn't want to be seen. You know, but I could feel that it was a funny being. Yeah. So I wasn't scared of it.
Yeah,
I was more interested what that was.
Yeah,
you know, and I think that then I was sort of expecting that maybe it will show up again. You know, but it didn't. But definitely this encounter was, I mean, this happened. And I wasn't drunk, I wasn't on any drugs, I wasn't, I was perfectly clean, perfectly sober, I was long past taking oxygen, so I was, you know, really feeling well.
Yeah. So, was it, would you say it's humanoid, or was there anything, I mean, were the eyes like a normal sort of proportion to the rest of it, or... Was it sort of human proportions?
It definitely, it was a humanoid. It was definitely related to us, right? It was something that I think could be recognized like a small human, right? Because it was small. It was like half my size, so it was the size of a child.
Oh, right, so that big, yes.
Yeah.
So like...
Yeah, like this, yes.
3 feet?
Something like this, yeah.
Oh, right.
Maybe even taller. And it was, how to say it? It was curious. Yeah. It was really full of curiosity, as if it wanted to join in. And there was something funny about it. You know? And there was something in it that was relating to me. I don't know how to tell you this, but I sort of found after thinking about it and after having nose operation 10 years later, when I had this weird situation when I was operated and then I saw myself.
Oh, that's
from the corner of the operating room,
right?
And I felt like this fairy. I felt like I was laughing. Like I was tricky, like I was a kind of a trickster. I looked at my body and I thought, what are these men doing? This is so stupid, this is so funny, why are they doing this? You know, so I like wanted to get out, like to be free. And this little thing, it felt like almost a brother to me, or a sister to me. Oh, you know, like it was there, looking. So now I'm thinking that maybe it left someone's body. You know, and came to look at us. I have no clue. I don't know what that was, but it was real.
And that's interesting because, I mean, again, with fairies, they are very curious. They're very curious about us and amused. You know, there's stories, but they're quite amused by us. Yeah. These silly human beings, what they're doing.
Yes. It felt like this. It felt like it wanted to get to know us, but somehow he couldn't get to know us, or she couldn't get to know us. I mean, maybe she was scared, or you know, or just didn't want to, or I have no clue. But it was there. It was like in this, and it's very much like everything that was there was matching.
Yeah,
you know, and it felt like this particular place can bring you in a close encounter with things that you don't understand, you know, that's somewhere there. When I was in that place, I sort of felt like something was actually drawing me to this place, if you know what I mean. Like I felt like I didn't pick it by coincidence, you know. I sort of felt like it was one of the places I have to be in this life in, you know, I have to visit this in this life. I felt that I was there in my previous life, you know, I sort of felt it. Yeah. And which actually then made sense after I made one discovery.
Tell me about that.
Because right before Breckenridge, there was a valley. Yeah, it was close to the highway that goes, you know, from Denver to Breckenridge, and there was a motel. Which sat in the heart of the valley,
right.
So at the end, after we moved out of this wooden house in Breckenridge, we lived in that motel. And two things were interesting. One thing was that actually the motel was built by the people from my hometown.
Oh.
The Highlanders, who specialize in building in wood, right? They're wood artists. And the second thing that was interesting was that before the motel was built and before the white people settled in, it was a Apache or Sioux village.
That's why I was thinking about the history, what was there before, because the houses might not be that old, but so
and I felt like I was there before, honestly. When I looked around, when I looked at the mountains, when I smelled the place, it actually felt like it was a familiar place to me.
I got the chills when you said that. So it's
I felt like I was from there. And lots of good and lots of bad things happened. It felt like I had a life there, and something was drawing me back to that place. I have chills as well when I'm speaking this.
Yes, so fascinating that you have those links in this current life to your home country. And that you were drawn to that place. I wonder if, I suppose it's difficult to tell, but I wonder if you had any ancestors that, perhaps distant ancestors that went out there and actually worked out there.
It might be, or it was just because I believe in reincarnation. Maybe it wasn't an incarnation. Maybe it was one of my previous lives. That actually was taking place there, and I had this kind of a thinking, and I had this kind of a maybe how to say, like a kind of a notion that this land was taken away from us. Because some people whom I met in Breckenridge, the Americans, they were very much like money oriented, and they were very much like, this is ours. Because I talked with them about it, and they say, Indians, but what did they have? They actually benefited from us, so, and I felt like this is wrong, you took their land, and you should at least acknowledge that. So I felt like it was happening again, sort of like reliving similar emotions.
So that brought up quite strong feelings for you.
It has.
And what did you feel when you first saw the house? Did you have any feelings of recognition?
So the story itself was very interesting because coincidences are very meaningful. Actually, I don't believe in. I believe that coincidences happen for a reason, if you know what I mean. And I sort of was expecting things like this, because when I lived in Michigan before, there was a hill that the locals took us to, with some lights coming from behind, and still nobody knows what that is. And it was even the American Army went there, NASA, right? This cosmic company went there. They want to check it. Nobody knows what it is, because when they went to check it, it wasn't there. But then again, people saw it. So so lots of things like this happen in America. So I think that it is real. And also, before coming to Colorado, when I lived in Cape Cod, right, I had a feeling that I heard army marching through the trees.
Oh, right, yeah.
Of people just marching. I don't know what that was, but marching through the trees. Yeah. So I had lots of those sensations there, which I don't have much in other places. No. But there it felt almost like it was everywhere. This particular incident with this faery, I remember very clearly up until now, and I've been remembering it like very, very vividly. And now when I talk to you, it almost like as if asks for attention. It almost wants me to talk about it.
That's wonderful. And maybe there is, some people say that the beings from the other world, or the fairies, are coming forward more now to connect. Some of them don't like us, but to connect with us, to give us this awareness, really, of, well, you're ready to, accept that there are other dimensions, and also that we need to be looking after the environment as well, because we're infringing more and more on their space, aren't we?
And maybe this fairy wanted to warn me, because not long after seeing the fairy, I had an accident. I fell down the stairs. I slipped on a carpet on a kind of a very slippery floor. And I tumbled down the stairs, and I fractured my tailbone. I hit my back a lot, so I've been having those problems with back since then.
Yeah.
I had to be taken to the hospital, X-rayed, and that was over. It was game over for me. I mean, I couldn't teach skiing any longer. So I recovered, and I even skied again. But I've had this pain for a long time, so since then. So I think that it could have been that it came to kind of give me a warning.
Yes.
That maybe he wanted to say something, or she wanted to say something, but of course we communicate in a different way. But I think that maybe he was like maybe a guardian angel. Looking for me, and maybe he wanted to tell me something. Yes. Don't go there, or don't do this, or something like that.
So it was a friendly feeling you had from this being.
Yes.
Yeah.
Completely friendly, curious, maybe a little bit scared. I want to be there. It was like I want to be there. It was almost like, wanting to join us, in this in the pranks, and I think that also maybe wanted to tell me that just be careful, just watch yourself, something of that kind.
Was there anything? I'm just sort of interested in how it looked. Was there anything about it that made you think? Maybe it's just the feel of it that made you think, oh, this isn't a human spirit, this is something else. This is because of the way it looked, or the way the feeling you had from it.
It was humanoid, as you said, but at the same time it was different, because it was very, very pure and very, very happy. Yeah. And as if without all of those our human worries, fears, it had this kind of a childish curiosity. Yeah, like children sometimes look at the corners, they look at things, in the nooks and crannies, they want to play or something like that. So it's definitely of that kind. Yes. But it was very close to us at the same time, so it was almost like a cousin, like somebody who is related, but a little bit different, It could have been actually something different. It could have been something different. It could have been not human, so to speak. Yeah. And yet it bore so much resemblance.
So was it just the shape that you could see? It's just the outline, and it was just like a more of a shadow than any features. Or
like people talk about ghosts, right? That they see ghosts, right? So it was like a ghost. I call it in Polish. I call it duszek, right? Which comes from duch, spirit. Duszek is something that is like a funny spirit. Yeah, right. It's like a tiny spirit. So when you talk about the ghosts of ancestors, so you say duchy, right? In the plural. But when you call about like little tiny funny thing, like you call it duszek. Like this, for example, this fairy tale for children, Kasper the Ghost. So we call it duszek Kasper. So it's like something that is funny, cute, little, of that kind.
Fascinating.
Yeah, I can draw it for you later. I mean, as much as I can, because
Yeah, no, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about the the First Nation beliefs about that area, whether anybody else had any experiences like that, or did you keep it to yourself, or did you look into it at the time?
Well, I was always, since I was a kid, I was always interested in Northern American Indians, always.
Yeah.
And when I was a kid, I was wearing a band on my hair, and I was sticking feathers in it, and some people called me Vina too, like this Indian from this film.
I don't know.
I felt like I was an Indian.
Yeah.
And whenever I watched some films, I was always siding with the Indians, of course,
Yes.
And their sort of ideas about life, about the higher power, the big spirit, right? It was always appealing to me. Their understanding of harmony, their lack of this white man kind of greed for gold, for money, for possession, contrasted by their beliefs that nobody should sell the land on which the men's feet walk. All of this was contrasted with those things that I don't like about human race, and so I was always very much into that, and yet I always felt suffering of these peoples, what the white man did to them, putting them in restricted areas, and when the Indians trusted the white man, like for example Sitting Bull, and then he was killed, and the battles of the Crazy Horse with the General Custer, I think, as far as I remember, and how the Indians won, and the Little Bighorn battle, and then when the Indian Graves in the Black Hills in North Dakota, as far as I remember, were just devastated for gold. So for me, the India culture was like more spiritual and high up in terms of spiritual development to the white man, and the contrast, how it all clashed, is for me a story about the humanity of the fight of the good and evil. Yeah, so I sort of feel that their ghosts are still walking that land. They are there in those sacred places for Indians, like the Black Hills. They are there. And also how the white men, because they were very proud, and they were warrior nations, and the white man knew what to do. They gave them alcohol, so the fire water, as they called, as they called it. So it was it's a massive. It's actually a story of homicide. Yeah. Like an extinction of the whole nation. Genocide. Sorry, genocide. And very much like covered in American history, and so it is felt there. I can feel it, when I was there, I felt it for sure.
Yeah, so you were going with this very similar vibration to that area, really, weren't you?
Yeah,
so,
and me being damaged in body. And going through some difficult situations, I think that I kind of, because I very much connect with the energy of the place. Of course, I've never lost my feeling of freedom, love, fascination. I've never lost it, but it always felt like I had to defend it. It's almost like the energy, maybe the good energy that is inside of me, is attracting this other energy that wants to take it away, if you know what I mean.
I can see that.
And I think that those good creatures, those fairies, and they are attracted to this good energy, and yet they are very scared of our destructiveness as well.
Yes, I feel that's really true as well. And So they were curious about you, and maybe it's that, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, she's one of us.
Exactly. Yeah.
She's, oh.
Yeah. This person came back. It's. I believe in it. I mean, my belief is like evolving. Like the older I get, the more I think about it. And I definitely can say that we live in lots of different dimensions. We are experiencing life in different forms, but certain strong emotions, they stay with us. Like, for example, we've never experienced something, but we know how it feels. Isn't it interesting?
Yeah. It is. And thinking about all the otherworldly and fairy experiences I've had have always been at a time of change, and perhaps I didn't really know consciously what that change was going to be before it happened. But yeah, looking back, you can look back and think, oh yeah, that happened and that happened. I'm interested in, you had that dreadful accident, and then how did that shift your life? Did you feel there was anything good that came out of it, or not, or how did it change your life going forward?
I think that it changed a lot, because I started thinking about how can I be more how to put it, less scared. How can I be less anxious and more grounded? How can I achieve this inner peace? Because all my life I've been actually really anxious, and I've been struggling with depression for a long time, which goes back to childhood and all of it. So I think it made me it put me on a path of self-discovery and working on this feeling that I can be okay, and I can be tranquil, and I can be strong, irrespective of the circumstances. That there is this always a healthy spiritual part of every one of us that is beautiful, that is happy, and that is love. And we have to always remember about it. We carry it no matter what is happening around us. And I think that this event and being in touch with those grandiose, beautiful things, good things, always reminded me of it, because I felt this amazing connection in many different places in America and in the UK as well, like Dartmoor. It almost like reminds you of who you truly are. Like, for example, I was in the Arches National Park in Utah, and there's this beautiful, delicate arch, and those structures and caves which are painted with Indian drawings. And you are there, and you feel this amazing connection to the land and to something spiritual, that it takes a tiny little second of connecting with it, and all the worry of the world is gone. So if you put it on scales, right, you can put a ton of worry on one scale, and you put a little speckle, a little tiny grain of dust of this wonderful thing on the other scale, and you tip it over right away.
Oh yeah, it's so beautiful. Yeah, I've not been to America. It's somewhere I really, really want to go to. And explore some of those places. But I get that from Dartmoor, which I love, and I can just drive from here 20 minutes or so and be up there, and within a few minutes I'm in that total shift.
Dartmoor for me is completely unique, and I feel like this in Dartmoor. Dartmoor cleanses the soul, and it's just a unique place. And I remember our walk, and when we were there together, and other walks that I did on my own or with friends, and every time I am in Dartmoor, I feel this energy as well. So I think we are blessed with such places like Dartmoor.
Yeah.
And it's a unique experience for me as well.
I do wish more people could experience these places, because I do feel it just brings us back, like you say, it brought you back to what is important and who you essentially are. And maybe we are related to the fairies. Maybe we are part of us and we're part of them.
I think we are part of this amazing, beautiful world.
Yeah.
We have a connection to it. We carry it inside, actually. You know, it's the what it taught me when asking you questions, that we all carry it inside. Okay, so this beautiful thing that you can see if you are in Dartmoor, or you are in Arches National Park, or if you are in Colorado in the Rockies, if you are in Tatra Mountains in Poland, it is in you.
Yes,
you know, it is. We have it inside, and especially in the moments when we are in despair, or we suffer, or we miss somebody. I think that to connect with it, to be able to connect with it, brings cure.
Yes.
You know, brings some renovation, restoration. But it's very difficult to connect with it sometimes, because we are buried under the thick layers of worry, anxiety, you know, struggling for survival sometimes, like, you know, people now in Ukraine struggling about how to pay the rent and stuff like this. So our minds, we are so much preoccupied with our minds, but we are not our minds.
No.
And we are not what we have to do in this materialistic world.
No.
There is a purpose why we are here, but we are much more than that.
Yes.
Yeah. And maybe this is why we have the understanding, I mean the recognition of our existence. Yeah. Because we have to see that there's much more. I mean, this is beautiful. This is enough. Like touching this table, touching this mug, being here, drinking coffee with you. Everything is fantastic.
Yeah.
But without this, like a spiritual touch to it.
Yes.
Without this sort of a bigger, I think, understanding, we would just stop on it. Okay.
Yeah.
We would just only see what is right before our eyes.
Yeah.
And I think that there is much more, but it's all needed. It's like all kind of, it's like a puzzle. You know, the bits fit one another, and they create a larger landscape. You know.
I can relate that to going through lockdown and not being able to get to the places that, you know, visually or whatever, feed my senses. And I had to internalise it, realise that I'd internalised it and I could carry it, like you're saying. But once you've experienced something, or once you've looked at something like that, you carry it in your heart, don't you? So you do, it's part of you all the time. That's really lovely. Really.
You know, lockdown, this whole pandemic, I think it had a very metaphorical meaning to it, because it actually closed our mouths and our noses with the masks. Yes. Right? And separated us by distance. Yeah, and I talked with a person who is a numerologist. And also, she's a kind of she's a person who sees future. She's a Polish lady, and she said that bizarrely, you know, I mean, it's how it links, that people feel each other's energy and can sort of communicate with their auras within 2 meters. Yes. So the lockdown, actually, and all of those rules took us even further apart from each other. And when you think about it, you think about, okay, so what actually was it? What was the purpose of it? Yeah. You know, and because people from from the beginning, right? They were gathered together, whether it was tents or caves, or they were meditating together. And suddenly this horrible virus that separates us, it puts us back into our little caves on our own. And look how many people suffered from mental health issues, since then.
Yeah.
And so it almost feels like it's always a struggle between the bad and the good, but of course that the good is stronger. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, there is. And I think it's that realisation that, because I don't watch the news at all. I have to be...
Good for you.
I cut myself off from all of that, not to be discompassionate or whatever, because I am interested, obviously, but just for my own self. Because it spins this idea that the bad outweighs the good in the world. It's always bad news, isn't it? And really, it's not like that. The good, like you say, the good is the greater power, if you want to put it in the light and dark sort of
course,
frame of reference, that we are powerful beings, and we have the power to shift things. Yeah. So,
we have the power to shift things, and there's no other way. I mean, there's no other way. I mean, if you want to progress emotionally, if you want to progress spiritually, you'll have to go down this path or up this path. You have to go through all of those things in your life. Otherwise, you'll be always stuck in the place where you are. And if looking back in history, all the big empires, all the big so-called civilizations based on gathering wealth perished. Like you had Incas, Mayas. What happened to them was horrible, but they were based on gathering gold, gathering riches, making human sacrifices, considering themselves better than other nations, having slaves, and perished. Roman Empire, in the days when it was the empire, who would have thought that it will ever perish? It perished. Nazis perished. Stalinism perished. Everything that is not rooted in the core of things, everything that is not aiming at the spiritual development, everything that is not based on love perishes.
Yes.
So we have an answer. I think that we have this amazing ability to develop spiritually.
Yes.
And we might go in circles. We might go in circles for generations and generations and generations as individuals and as societies. But there's no other way out.
No.
If we want to be happy, if we want to be fulfilled, if we want to be serene and really in peace with ourselves, we have to discover this thing. We have to discover that it's not money, it's not power, it's not riches, it's not greed. It's love. Because otherwise we'll stay where we are.
Yes.
We will kill each other, we will wage wars, we will steal, we will have greed for more land and more land. This is not taking us anywhere. No. Literally.
And that's happening all over, everywhere, isn't it? But all over England, rest of the UK, here. Locally, where I live, the lands, the green lands. Yeah,
it's everywhere. It's everywhere. Yeah. Everywhere, and it's very sort of it's this kind of an energy that has no how to say it, no future. So there is hope, because there is no other way around. If you know what I mean. If we want to progress, if you want to see things, if you want to understand, if you want to know why we are here, we need to go down this path. The path of sort of, I don't want to use big words, but in a way, enlightenment.
Yes.
Right? Because otherwise we will just go back to where we were.
Yeah. We will. Like you say, it's not... Our whole reason for being on this planet isn't to build piles of gold.
Yeah. But this planet is it's like a weird place to be, because still, to have peace, we have to produce weapons, if you know what I mean. So we're still somewhere there on the ladder of progress, and I have this feeling that there are some other civilizations that went through that thousand years ago, and they're looking at us and they're thinking, oh my God.
Yeah. Oh, I believe that too. Totally believe that. I think we're just very much a warring species. You know, we can look back 500 years and think, oh, wasn't that terrible? They were doing this and doing that to each other. Well, we haven't changed really that much. We might think we have, but we haven't. We've got a long way to go.
I think a long way to go.
Yeah.
I think we have a long way to go, and I don't know if we'll ever make it there. But if we don't, we'll always be miserable. You know, there'll always be war, suffering, casualties, horrible things happening. If we don't change our perspective, we'll be always hurting each other.
Yes.
And this will never stop. But I have hope, because there are beautiful people all around. There's always hope. There's always somebody who does good things.
Yeah.
So let's be hopeful.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you for talking to me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I'm thankful for your time and that you wanted to listen to my stories. I hope that it makes a little bit of sense.
Yeah, it's fabulous. Thank you. Hello, welcome back. And thank you for listening to the end. There are so many things that were covered during this chat. So some of the things we talked about was this experience happening at a crossroads in Pat's life. So she was in a liminal state, travelling through America. She was living on a mountain, and mountains are also connected with fairies, because fairies are believed to live in hills in fairy folklore. She was going through some life changes, so she was at a literal life crossroads. Up high in the mountains as well, she was talking about having to take oxygen when she first got there. So there's lots of liminality here, and fairies are believed to live on the threshold of our perception, in the in-between places. We spoke about synchronicities, how there are a whole series of synchronicities that happen to bring Pat to this place and to the home that she was staying in where she had the experience, and how she had this feeling of belonging, a kind of yearning. I've mentioned that in a previous episode, this feeling of Schönschutz, as it's called in German, where you feel complete, deep longing for the landscape and belonging to the landscape, as if you've been there before. Pat talks about the vastness of the landscape, and that this vastness seems to exaggerate everything. So even psychic or supernatural experiences seem to be exaggerated, and perhaps because there are so many unpopulated areas still in America, there's so many places that humans still haven't been to, it's so vast. It was interesting for me that it was connected to a wardrobe or a closet, as it's also called, because there are many accounts or stories that I've seen on paranormal shows and I've read about where spirits emerge from wardrobes as if they use them like some kind of portal. And Pat's actions and her girlfriend's actions when the fairy or the being, whatever it was, appeared, they were playing tricks, they were being silly. It's almost as if that energy that they were generating attracted this very childlike being, which she said appeared to be humanoid, was the size of a child, but also seemed something other as well. Then we have Pat's experience 10 years later of having her operation, where she has an out-of-body experience, and it's like she is looking into the human world from this out-of-body experience and finding the operation that she's observing very amusing. So there's lots of themes of seeing things from different dimensions in this episode, and it's interesting when Pat said about, well, maybe that was someone having an out-of-body experience that was observing us in that basement flat. There are so many possibilities. I feel that it could be linked with the Native American Little People legends, because they're in an area that's connected with the Native American people. They're in the mountains, and from what I've read about these beings, the appearance of being 2 or 3 feet high or smaller, they're believed to live in these wild, uninhabited areas. So there's so many links here, but we can't say for sure what it was. I must admit, I am leaning on the side of faery. I don't know why, that's just a feeling I have. There's also this factor that it could have been a child spirit as well. I like the idea of holding the landscape within. We can carry the landscape that we belong to within us, or landscapes that we feel some kind of deep connection with. We can carry that within us to other places. So Pat was talking about coming from an area of Poland known for people that create wooden buildings that then moved to moved to Colorado and created buildings there. And that she had come from this mountainous area of Poland and then gone to Colorado and felt a sense of belonging there too. Says something to me about our nature as multidimensional beings, that we can be in more than one place at once, or more than one time at once, and experience things on many different levels that we're only just beginning to explore. Scientists that are looking into consciousness and ideas about the multiverse. Really fascinating and very uplifting. I enjoyed hearing Pat talking about her connection with the Native American people as well, and there really is a lot that we can still learn from them and their ways, especially at this time in Earth's history. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I look forward to seeing you next time. If you'd like to join my Patreon community, see the links for this episode in the show notes. See you next time, and remember to keep your heart open and be the change.